Okay, brilliant. I think we will start. So yeah, first of all, welcome to this webinar. The title of which is "How can we help you create surveys which are accessible to everyone?" In terms of yeah, but before we start, does anyone have any accessibility requirements that we should be aware of? If you do, if you could just indicate it in the chat or put a hand up. Brilliant. Okay, so in terms of the structure of the webinar, really, Christoph and I have two main aims. We would like to show you the accessible survey tool that we have developed and get your thoughts and feedback on it. But the other thing that we'd like to do, we're really keen to start building a community of people who are interested in accessible surveys and accessible data collection, because we realise it's a really challenging thing to do. Christoph and I, with the International Disability Alliance and other partners, are making a start, but we would really like to involve other people. So yeah, that's part of holding these webinars, to start building a community and a group of people who are interested in the same things. Just to recap on the structure of the webinar today, Christoph and I will start by introducing ourselves. We'll then give you a little overview of accessible surveys, tell you a little bit about where it came from and where we are now. We'll then have a time where I will share my screen and I will show you what accessible surveys looks like, both from the perspective of a survey respondent taking a survey on accessible surveys, then provide a little bit of time for questions or discussion. Really interested to get your thoughts and feedback on that. We'll then show you what it looks like, I suppose the back end of the survey tool, so what it looks like for a survey builder, and again provide a little bit of time to get your thoughts and feedbacks and answer any of your questions after that. And then at the end of the webinar, we'd like to open it up a little bit and have a bit more of a broader discussion about how we go about creating surveys which are accessible for everyone, and maybe talk about some of the challenges, but also some of the opportunities which exist for doing that. So that's just to provide a bit of a structure. So I will start with introducing myself. My name's Jerry. I'm based in London. My background is actually finance. I'm a chartered accountant, but I'm really interested in data, I suppose, and how we can create data and have data which enables us to make good decisions. My role with accessible surveys is really doing everything that isn't related to the actual coding. So that's primarily around supporting our customers who are using the platform, and also speaking to potential customers and other partners who can help us build accessible surveys. So that's a little bit about me. Christoph, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, with pleasure. Hi, everyone. So my name is Christophe. I'm based in France. I'm trained as a physicist, but I spent most of my career in the aid development sector. And in this sector, I was very often the weird guy who knows how to build stuff with computers. So I gradually specialized myself in building information management systems in the fields for small-scale NGOs to UN agencies, and also to governments. I've been confronted with accessibility and disability as a whole since my very young age. So my relationship to accessibility is both technical, and while we build accessible surveys, we follow web standards, accessibility standards. but it's also political, as what we try to do there is to build a tool that leaves no one behind. So we try really to go beyond web standards and build something that can adapt to anyone specific needs. What else can I say? Well, this journey has been a journey of humility as well, because sometimes you think you have great ideas, and then you test it in real life, and you realize that you have to go back to square one. So we're still also in this process, and that's also why we're really interested to speak to as many people as possible in the field, so that what we try to build really makes sense and improve the life of people. I think I am presented as a speaker for this webinar. Actually, I won't speak much. Jerry is much better than me for that, but I will, of course, participate in the questions and answering your questions. Thank you, Jerry. I'll leave it back to you.
Thanks, Christophe. So, but before we show you the what accessible surveys looks like, I think I just want to give you a little bit of the history of it, both where how accessible surveys started, and also where we are now, just to sort of set the scene a little bit. So Christophe and I have actually been working together for about 6 years, building a information management platform. But about 3 years ago, we were approached by IDA, the International Disability Alliance, and we started a collaboration with IDA to develop an accessible survey tool. So part of IDA run a large global survey to understand about organizations of persons with disabilities' involvement in decision making. And they were using SurveyMonkey to do that, and we're having some issues primarily around accessibility, and they were aware that we had an information management platform, and so we really worked together very closely, and in fact we still are working closely with IDA to develop an accessible survey platform. So IDA we've released it under IDA's own branding. So there is a tool called idata.tools, and then we released the same platform but under the accessible survey branding about a year ago. So that partnership with IDA and with organizations of persons with disabilities was really central to the creation of accessible surveys. And it's also really, really important as we develop the survey tool that we do that in partnership with persons with disabilities and their organizations. So that's a little bit about how it started. Where we are now, we have a handful of first customers. So we have about 10 customers who are running surveys on the platform. And really, those customers are all sort of shapes and sizes. So we have very small, we actually have individual researchers running surveys on the platform. And we also have large organizations like UNICEF Innocenti running global surveys on the platform. So that's a little bit about where we are. As Christophe says, in some respects, the platform is quite developed, as you will see. But we also realize that creating an accessible survey tool, which is genuinely accessible to everyone, is a real challenge, and it's a journey. It's not something where you ever arrive. So we need to keep learning and keep developing. And so we're interested in your thoughts and feedback. Any questions on the background before I share my screen and show you what accessible surveys actually looks like? If you have a question, you're welcome to I think there's a reactions bar down the bottom. You can raise a hand if you'd like to ask a question, and then you can unmute yourself. If there's no questions, I will get on with it and share my screen. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully, can everyone see? You should be able to see a page that says survey habits and experience, and then a title that says accessibility. Can everyone see that?
Yep, I can see that.
Perfect. Great. Okay, so this is what an accessible, so this is an example of what an accessible survey looks like for a survey respondent. So in terms of how we approach accessibility, as Christoph says, we conform with web accessibility standards, which is largely around making sure that a user with a screen reader can easily find their way around a survey and complete a survey. However, we also we go beyond conforming with standards, and we really understand accessibility around making a survey available to a survey respondent in a format that works best for them. So that includes some features that you've probably seen, quite common on websites, such as being able to vary the theme or contrast, or being able to enlarge the text size. But we also offer some accessibility options, which certainly from a survey perspective are unique to accessible surveys. So there's the ability to activate an easy read mode. There's the ability to be able to have questions and options read aloud at a speed that suits the survey respondent. There's the option to be able to provide a sign language video to sign questions and options. And there's also the ability to be able to, for respondents to be able to leave voice messages for text-based questions rather than typing them out. So what I'm going to do, we'll go onto the first page of a survey so you can see what that looks like in practice. So surveys can have an accessibility menu right at the beginning to really highlight those accessibility choices, but those same options are also available from an accessibility settings menu anywhere within the survey. So this is what a survey page looks like with no accessibility options activated. If a survey respondent was to activate Easy Read, the presentation of the question would look as you can see. So essentially the question itself, the text of the question itself remains the same, or we suggest that it remains the same because the underlying survey should be written in plain English or plain language. But when the Easy Read mode is activated, the survey interface is simplified somewhat. The text size is enlarged. The read aloud feature is activated, and also the meaning of the question is supported by a picture. So that just gives you an idea of what a survey looks like when the Easy Read mode is activated. So I'll turn that off, and then I'll show you what it looks like if a sign language option is activated. So essentially here, above the question, a sign language video will appear, which will essentially sign the question and the options which are available. Okay. So the last one I'd like to show you is the voice recording mode. So this is actually quite a new feature that we released a couple of months ago. So this is just activated for text-based questions. So when this mode is activated, instead of a text field, there is a record button. So a survey respondent can select that. They'll need to give their browser permission to use their microphone. But once that's given, they can then speak their answer to a text-based question, and then when they select stop, that their answer will be saved. There's also the option for them to listen to their answer and to re-record it if they choose. With those recordings, those voice recordings are actually transposed into text on the back end. So as a survey builder, those responses are available as text in your data set, along with a link to the voice recording in case the text is unclear. So they're the main accessibility options that I wanted to show you today. I will also just show you a couple of other features which aren't really linked to the accessibility, but I think they do really enhance the experience for a survey respondent. So part of a large part of making a survey accessible is that it should have a nice structure, and survey respondents should be able to understand clearly where they are in your survey. So the way that accessible surveys is structured, we use a page format so that survey respondents can work their way through the survey and always have a good idea about where they are in the survey. Another feature that I just want to show you is the surveys can incorporate survey logic, so that questions can be presented to respondents depending on answers to previous questions. So for instance, with this question here, I am satisfied with my current survey tool. If a respondent says, yeah, I agree to that, then a follow-up question can be asked, what do you like about the survey tool you're using? But if they answer, say, disagree, the question can be, what frustrates you about the survey tool that you're using? And that really just allows you to create almost customized paths through your survey, which are sort of tailored to your respondents' experience. So it makes it a bit more satisfying for survey respondents. That's all I propose to show you on the survey respondent experience for now. But I would be really interested we're happy to answer any questions that you have on that, and to hear any thoughts or reactions. If you would like to ask a question or share a thought, if I could ask you just to put up your hand using the reactions button, and then I will invite you to come off to unmute yourself and turn your camera on if you would like, and maybe just before you ask your question, if you could just really briefly introduce yourself, just say your name and the organization that you work for. If you feel more comfortable as well, you can also welcome to put questions in the comments bar. Okay, so we do have a question here in the comments section. Can you embed the survey in a page? Christoph, would you like to take that question?
Yeah, I can take that question. For the time being, the survey that is run needs to be run under our domain. That being said, embedding surveys in other web pages is really something we would provide in the future. It's not yet built, but we've done some research and we know how it would be possible. What else can I say about that? Well, we also have ways to deploy the application in a bespoke domain. So it's not really embedding a survey in a web page, but it's kind of tailor the look and feel of accessible surveys so that it runs under another domain.
Great. And Christoph, there's also a follow-up question to that. Can you brand the survey for the organization, or at least the organization's colors?
Well, I partially answered that question. There are different levels of how we can integrate brands. So really the highest level is you run your survey under your own domain, and then we really make sure that the homepage of the survey application looks like it belongs to you. We can accommodate different themes and different colors, so we can partially do that. It's not yet exactly up to the level that we want, a bit like the embedding thing, but this is clearly something we will continue look into.
Great, thanks, Christoph. And Greet, you have your hand up. I will unmute you. Yeah, okay, feel free to ask your question, Greet.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Hello, I'm Greet, currently working for Humanity and Inclusion. I do have a question related to, because the accessibility says British Sign Language, so could it be, as long as we upload or prepare the video, can it be any sign language, local sign language, or it's currently, I don't know, only adapted for British Sign Language? Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Greet. Yes, it is possible to you can upload whichever sign language you choose. At the moment, it's only possible to present one sign language so if you have a survey available in a multilingual survey like the IDA Global Survey, that they chose to provide the sign language in International Sign. Christoph, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Well, we can actually have multiple sign language for one single survey, but then it's really a question of investment on the part of the survey builder, because managing a survey in multiple languages and having multiple sign language is something that should be thought beforehand, because it might involve quite a lot of work.
Great, thanks, Christoph. And Mario, you have a question.
Yeah, nice to meet you first of all, and thanks a lot for the overview so far. I'm currently working with Humanity and Inclusion on a project on data on children with disabilities in schools in emergency settings. And I just wanted to know if you had already the opportunity to work on your platform using the Washington Group questions. So for instance, you have like these different features, including the sign language or the easy read. So I would be interested in that, because I mean, like, I've seen just some work on paper, for instance, on the use of easy read for this question, but I would be interested because then, I mean, like, I see that international organizations are still just using, for instance, statements about, okay, do you self-identify in line with the CRPD? Thank you.
I'll have this one, Jerry. Yeah, thanks a lot, Mario, for the question. That's a very interesting question. Actually, we did do some work around the Washington Group question and question sets. I frankly, I don't remember exactly how far it is included, but that allows me to touch on another subject. One thing that we think is really important when you do surveys is that you have ways to compare the data across different surveys and reuse part of survey modules across different surveys. That has two main advantages. One is that, well, you can compare the data, at least on some basic demographic things, for instance, or other modules that you want to repeat. And also, it allows to reduce a bit the survey fatigue, as once a module has been answered by a respondent in whichever survey it is, that would appear as already filled in for this respondent. So you would have ways to do surveys across time and make sure that people do not have to fill the survey in again. But if you are interested in continuing the discussion around Washington group questions, we would be really happy to continue that on another channel.
Perfect. Thanks, Christophe. Great. So I'm going to, Alexander has a question. So Alexander, I'm going to invite you to ask your question, but then that will be the last question we take on this section, because I'm just aware of time, and I'd quite like to show you the back end and show you as a survey builder how you'd create a survey and accessible surveys, and also, you know, what the data looks like when it comes in. But Alexander, feel free to ask your question.
Thanks, Jerry and Christophe, for this important webinar. My name is Alex Cales from the Westminster Foundation for Democracy, and a couple of questions on where and how is the data stored when sort of survey responses are completed. And I really like the speech-to-text feature that you have, and just wondered whether that's also possible to use in different languages, or whether that's limited to English. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Alexander. So Christophe, do you want to respond to those questions?
Yeah, well, speak to text, it takes the language chosen by the respondent to do the transcription. So it's not just English. It can be any language. And
where and how is the data stored?
Oh yeah, we use a Google infrastructure for running the backend of our survey. So for the time being, data is stored on Google infrastructure, which is somewhere in central. I think it's in Nevada. That being said, we are in the process currently to migrate part of the database that we're using, with the aim to let our customer to choose where the data is stored. So it could be then stored in Europe or wherever you want. That being said, we are GDPR compliant, even though our data are stored on Google infrastructure. But we are aware that for some customers, it's really critical that the data is stored in a place that they have control of.
Thank you.
Right. So what I will do now, first of all, yeah, thanks for all those questions. It's great to great to have your interest and your questions. What I'd like to do now is share my screen again and briefly show you what the back end of accessible surveys looks like. So can you see my screen? You should see a title that says Survey Workspace Test. Great, thanks. So what we're looking at here is the survey workspace for our test program. So you can see all the surveys that we have created here. So what I want to do, I'll go into a test survey. So this is very similar to the survey that we just looked at from the respondent's perspective. So there's three main aspects to a survey. There is a form, and the form is where you would create your questions and apply language and accessibility modes. The survey editor really controls all aspects of how you distribute and share your survey. So that's where you'd be able to generate your survey links. And then the analytics is really where you can view your live data as it's collected for a survey. So I just want to very quickly show you a few aspects. So starting with the form editor, if we click in here, then we have the structure of the survey down here. So I'll show you how you can add a question to a form. So if we go into the add content mode in the bottom right hand side, we have the page structure of the survey in the tree structure, which shows the pages. Then sections are added to pages, and questions are then added to sections. So say the different types of questions which are available are listed on the right hand side of the page. So there's various types of text-based questions, and then there's also some options, choice-based questions. There's also the ability to invite respondents to upload media files, and there's also a free text field which can be added. So if we just wanted to add a ratings question to a form, you would drag and drop it into the place where you want it to appear, and then you would just write the question here. So do you like this survey, for instance? And then there's various different options which obviously depend on the type of question. With a ratings question, you can choose the number of stars that you would like the respondents to rate the question out of. One of the nice things as a survey builder is there's a test mode here, which as you're adding questions to your form, you can quickly go into the test mode and see actually what it would look like to a survey respondent. The different accessibility options and language options are also very visible in the test mode, so you can quickly test out how it would appear when those modes are activated. And then if you've made a typo, which as I frequently do, there's also the option here just to go back into the question itself so that you can make any changes. So that's a really brief overview of how to add a question to a form. I just want to show you how you would apply accessibility and language settings. So there's a form behavior menu, and here you would be able to choose the accessibility options that you would like to offer for your survey. So as a survey builder, you really have a choice. You don't need to make all those accessibility options available. For instance, you could have a survey where you think it'd be really helpful to have it in an easy read mode, but actually sign language is not necessary for that particular survey. So you could, activate some modes, but not others. And I will show you when they're activated. I'll show you actually how you can edit questions to complete the easy read mode or the sign language mode. There's also the ability here to make your survey available in other languages. So you'd first need to activate localization. Then with those things activated, when you go back onto your survey, you will see some additional options or icons appearing in the bottom right-hand corner. So if you then view the survey in easy read mode, you would be able to go to a question, and this is where you do have the option to amend the question label or the helper text in easy read mode. We wouldn't recommend that because the best practice is that your standard survey should be available in plain language. But this gives you the option to select a media or an image to support the meaning of the question. The sign language works in a similar way. Again, under sign language, for each question, you just have the ability. With sign language, what you would do is you would, as a survey builder, you would be responsible for getting the sign language videos made for each question, and then uploading those videos to YouTube. and then there's an easy way just by entering the YouTube ID in that field. It then places the video in the appropriate section in the form. If you don't have, we have some relationships with good providers, both of easy read images and also sign language translators. That just to show you briefly how the language features work. So if we activate the language mode, these are this shows the languages which have been activated for the test program. So these are activated at a program settings level, but once they're activated, they can be your surveys can be translated into those languages, and there is an auto translate option. So the first time that you translate it, you can select auto translate, and that will auto translate all the fields in your survey. That does rely upon essentially Google Translate. So it's not perfect, and we would highly recommend that you got a native speaker to review the translation before making your survey public. That's a very whistle-stop tour of the form builder. I won't spend much time on the survey editor, but just to give you a very quick view of one part of it. The survey editor, one of the features it allows is for you to share survey links. So survey links can be produced, either test links where the data isn't saved to the database, or production links where they are. And it is also possible, if you want, to share links with either different language or accessibility modes pre-activated. Otherwise, if you just share the standard link, survey respondents will be invited to choose their language when they first land on the landing page, and be able to activate the accessibility options from the accessibility menu. The last thing I want to show you on the back end is the analytics, but I will show you that on a different survey where we have a few more live responses. So this is actually the survey that we were looking at earlier from a respondent's perspective. So if we click into this, responses when they're received appear on an interactive dashboard. So this allows you to interact with your data set in real time, and quickly get a feel for who's responding to your survey, what does the data look like. And so you can these dashboards are responsive. So for instance, I can quickly see that I've had a few responses in from Australia to this survey. So if I just wanted to have a look at those responses, if I selected Australia from the map, it filters out the data set and just shows me the responses from Australia. Or if I wanted to see that over a particular period of time, I could select that. Or the structure of the survey is presented in the left-hand side, so you can also filter the data set based on answers to particular questions. So this isn't a full sort of analytics package, but it does give you quite a nice way to understand in real time who's responding to your survey. Also from here, you have the option to download the full data set. You'll be asked to just to select that you understand your data protection responsibilities, and then you have the option to download the data set either as a JSON or a CSV file, and there's different types of file export. So you can export an anonymized version of the data set, or the raw version has everything in it. I'm aware that that's a very short and summary overview, but in a similar way, yeah, I'd like to, if anyone has any questions or comments on that, you're welcome to raise a hand and ask them now. Okay, so we have a question in the chat box. Is it usable also from mobile devices? So yes, it is. It has been built very much to be used both, you know, from any device, either you know, desktop, laptop, tablet, or mobile. So yeah, it is. Okay, another question. Okay, let's have a look. Do the YouTube videos need to be public, or would private videos work as well? That's a good question. Christoph, can I pass that to you?
No, they need to be public. That if that really is an issue, you can host your videos somewhere else. But for the time being, videos on YouTube would need to be public. Well, you can make them public but not searchable, so that basically the only way to see them would be that you know the exact URL or the ID to the video. It's almost as if it's no, it's not really the same. But I mean, you would make sure that people don't stumble across a video that you don't want to. There was another question there regarding permission on editing sites. Well, basically you control who can edit, so you give role to users for editing surveys. You can also have roles just for translators, so that someone would only have access to edit a survey in a specific language. Checking if there are other answers or other questions.
Sarah, I know that you have used idata.tools, which is essentially the same platform as Accessible Surveys. So I'd be really interested to hear a bit more about your experience of that, if you're happy to share that with the group. But before we do that, I think it would be quite good at this point to broaden out the conversation a little bit, away from Accessible Surveys as just a tool in itself, to talk a bit more broadly about how do we make surveys accessible for everyone? What are the opportunities to do that? What are some of the challenges? Yeah, as Christoph and I look to do that with our current partners, who else should we be talking to? Any ideas that you have for us? I'd appreciate that. But just to help introduce that section, I've just prepared a short poll just to get just to get an idea of who's on the call, and if you run surveys currently, and some of your experiences. So I'm just going to run that poll now. I'll give people just a minute or two to respond to it. We'll then share, just reflect on people's responses, and then we'll open it up for a bit of a broader conversation. But yeah, in that section, Sarah, if I could yeah, ask you just to hear about some of your experiences of running an accessible survey on idata.tools. So I'll just give everyone a bit of an opportunity to respond to that. Okay, great. So I'm going to end the poll. I'll share the results. So yeah, just thanks for participating in that. So it seems that I mean, probably unsurprisingly, given that you've all given up your time to participate in this webinar, everyone who answered the poll do run surveys as part of their job, apart from one person who intends to do so in the future. In terms of the number of surveys run a year, a bit of a variation there with a number of people, most people running between sort of 2 and 5 surveys a year. And in terms of the satisfaction with the accessibility of the current survey, again, quite a mixed response. One person really satisfied, 3 people quite dissatisfied, and 1 person neutral. So yeah, interesting to get that perspective. Maybe as part of the discussion, if the person who's really satisfied with their current survey tool, we're really keen to know what's working well as well. So it'd be good to understand that as well. So yeah, I will close that now. Sarah, would you mind coming off mute and just telling us a little bit about your experience of running an accessible survey?
Hi, I'm Sarah Rocha. I'm a data expert, and I recently worked with the survey. I put a little comment on the chat, actually, because I do think what I found is that first I was very surprised that other general survey platforms don't have this, because it's something my needs are not necessarily screen readers. I'm deaf, for example, so most surveys are relatively accessible to me, and it kind of opened my eyes of how much they are not accessible for other people, actually, to a point sometimes that I was not fully aware of. So I think it's essential, is a good step. I think it's going to be a progress. It's never going to be immediate perfect tool in the beginning, because even within the community, we're still trying to understand specific needs and of accessibility for underrepresented people. For example, people in rural areas that have limited access to the internet might still struggle to respond to surveys, and we might need to find other forms to reach them. But it is a step in the right direction. I think it was quite useful and quite accessible for the people that responded to the survey we did. Obviously, it will still need work eventually to make it perfect, if that's a thing, because I don't think there is perfect in accessibility. We will always have to continue to find new tools and features. But yeah, thank you for doing this, because it is very, very important, something that is not being fully explored. And it's good that you are also involving organizations in the development, because a lot of the organizations that are developing this kind of tools don't do it necessarily. So yeah, that's my point. But if there is any question, feel free to ask, and then I'm happy to answer. Thanks.
Thanks, Sarah. Appreciate that. So, I mean, one question to which I'd be interested in people's thoughts on is what are the things that an online survey tool needs to do to make it accessible to everyone that we haven't thought about, or we should be, or maybe things that you've seen really work well on other platforms. But any feedback that we could get from to leverage your experiences would be really interesting. Mario, yeah, please ask your question or share your thoughts.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I mean, like the tool is great, but I mean, like based on like my experience, which is like not fast in terms of the use of surveys online, is that I mean, like we make the tool accessible, but then oftentimes the people who are designing the survey are not really just making the survey itself understandable, and they don't know how to work with these platforms. And that is also the same issue when you're working, for instance, with mobile phone based surveys and so on and so forth. So I was wondering if you also plan then just to, I don't know, have some kind of direction guidance as part of your platform at some point for people who are basically willing to use this tool. Because that would also be part of the accessibility discussion, not just like the features of the tool, but also the people and the knowledge of people developing the surveys. Yeah, that's just a reflection. Thanks.
Yeah, Mario, that's a really good insight and comment. And yeah, I think we realize that having a survey platform which is accessible is sort of one important piece of the jigsaw, but actually designing a survey which is accessible to everyone, that's just one part of it. But also there is things like, you know, making sure that the whole process of conducting the survey is accessible. So therefore, you know, in terms of the number of questions, the type of questions, the way that the results of the survey are shared, really the whole process needs to be accessible, and that's a much broader conversation and challenge than just the software. So one of the things that we're keen to do, and we've actually made a bit of a start on it, we're keen to work with partners and produce a guide which really covers the whole process of creating an accessible survey, really from the inception of designing the survey through to, you know, testing it and sharing the results. So yeah, if anyone's interested or knows anyone who might be interested in working with us on that, we'd love to hear from you. Mario, I think you still have your hand up. Have we answered your question, or do you have a follow-up on that?
No. Yes, it was great. Thanks a lot.
Okay, perfect. Okay, great. So Alexander, not related to inclusion accessibility, but a feature that would limit the collection of potentially non-necessary data would be useful, particular IP addresses, timestamps, etc. Christoph, that looks like it's one for you.
Yeah, it looks like. Well, we do collect some metadata on while a respondent submits the form, but really not much, because we don't want to collect too many metadata. For instance, we just use the IP address to infer the location of the respondent, but then we drop the IP address, so the IP address is not stored. But of course, the timestamp, the language, the accessibility modes that have been activated while the survey is responded, a couple of other metadata information is also available to the survey, the person who is going to analyze the data.
Great. Yeah, and I suppose yeah, one thing that we're really interested in is we're just at the stage, as I said at the start of the webinar, we're at the stage where we've made quite a lot of progress, and we also have some really good partnerships with organizations like IDA, but we are really keen to both get the word out about accessible surveys, but also build those collaborations with people and organizations who care about making surveys and data collection more broadly accessible. So if you have liked what we've shown you, we would love it. We can either connect with you individually, or feel free to put us in touch with people you think might be able to accompany us along the journey. We're coming towards the end of our time together. Christoph, do you have any final thoughts or reflections you'd like to share?
Yeah, well, two thoughts. I see one reaction regarding how customizable other tools are. I'm just using that to say that the free text that we have on the form builder has a lot of power. Basically, you can put whatever content you want, videos, audio, structure it. You can actually write HTML directly on it. The other remark was like, oh, if you'd like to test that out, just drop us a line, and you can try it out and see how it works for you. Yeah, I think that's it. Thanks a lot for participating to this webinar. We're actually quite excited. It was our first webinar for us, so we're quite glad with the participation and the quality of the reaction and the questions. So thanks a lot.
Great, perfect. And we have recorded the session, so I will share the recording with you all afterwards, and you're welcome to share it with your colleagues or anyone you think might be interested. But yeah, thanks so much for joining us today. We've really enjoyed it. Okay. Goodbye, everyone. I'll end the meeting now.